Welcome back! Today we are going to learn the art of storytelling for sales, and it's a very hands-on lesson. It's super practical, and we are going to see taking all of the concepts that we learned, the concepts of stakes from the last lesson, if you do remember, and weaving them into storytelling structure that guides your audience to see why they should care about what you're selling and how it helps them without a hard sell. I have used this in my business since I started my business because my background is in journalism. It's not in marketing, and even though I have a degree in marketing from Columbia, selling was always a little weird for me. So when I started telling stories and taking this approach without using the hard sell and really hard pitch, it not only worked and converted clients, whether that was at a time when I was doing my agency and I was looking for a done-for-you clients, and when I was selling one-on-one calls. And if you're here, this is the structure that I used in my launch newsletters. So it's something that I've used time and time again in my business because it not only works, but it felt good for me when I was doing it because I never wanted to come off salesy. And I think that is a big motivator for you too from the conversations I've had. So we're going to talk about when stakes are clear, your story becomes a decision-making tool for your audience, and it guides them to see themselves in a new and a better position. So the ultimate goal with storytelling for sales is to make the purchase decision feel like the next logical move, the next obvious move for them. This non-salesy storytelling framework uses the principles from earlier module, and it combines them to make this really simple and straightforward. So you have all the raw materials here. So what we'll be doing in this lesson, and again, feel free to pause this video and follow along with me. And you should be able to plug and play from the responses from earlier. You see the earlier lessons. So let's hop right into non-salesy storytelling, my personal favorite framework for all the benefits that it's given me over the year. So we'll start by setting up the problem, that common struggle. We want to set the scene of something familiar that they're going with. So if you think of your offer and what they stand to lose by not purchasing or not working with you, then we want to think of how that shows up in their life on an everyday basis. Are they going to continue wasting time? Are they not going to be able to get to their goals in a streamlined way? We want to just capture what we can of how that would feel and look like on a real everyday Tuesday morning for your ideal client. So any hook style works here, and you can absolutely use the worksheet for module 1 for inspiration, but the trick to nailing this opening line is to match the hook with the stakes. So the context needs to relate, I say, to the consequences for it to make sense and move people to action. So look at the answers from the last exercise to get inspired. I want you to think of the short and long-term consequences for not opting into your effort. And for this exercise, I'll use a course on prioritization as an example, and the short-term tasks stakes here would be being overwhelmed, confused, disorganized, and the long-term stakes are burnout that makes sustainable progress towards goals and unattainable. So long-term stakes are a requirement for the second step. Before this step, focus on that immediate problem. How is it showing up in real life? So this is the perfect place to start a sales story. You could use an example from your life, from your client's life, or you can come up with a hypothetical situation like this one that I did for the example. So for this, I said Tara's mornings always started at the same a.m. She'd write a long list of things to do, determined to tackle it all in 8 hours with a high vibe smile on her face. By the time 513 rolled around, she was hinged over her computer chair wondering, how did this to do this get longer? So what we're doing here, how I wrote this was I just made it very basic to her situation, right? Like I'm really painting this picture here. Like Sarah is this gang who person. So if your audience relates and identifies as somebody who's ambitious like Sarah would, she's trying her hardest. She's writing this list. She knows she's got to get stuff done, and she's trying to be positive about it. And then by 513, she's hunched over in her chair. This is something that we talked about earlier about capturing feelings and how they are in the body. So instead of saying, Sarah was so disappointed and sad about her not accomplishing her to do this, being hunched over in her chair, that's like sign of defeat. So that's just a really great way of showing not telling and storytelling. So yeah. So again, it will create that it'll allow people to fill in the blanks in their own mind with like how they would be feeling if they were in that hunched over position in the chair, like being drained, right? So we're creating this picture, we're setting them up to feel something without completely spelling it out for them, because we want to use the generation effect that we talked about in module 1. So they are filling in the blanks for you and doing some of that heavy lifting, putting themselves into that situation. So from there, we're going to get right into the stakes. The long-term stakes, we really want to amplify the consequences of not solving the problem. A psychological reason why we do this is because we don't view gains and losses equally. The pain of losing something is always going to be more motivating than the joy of succeeding. So when you highlight the cost, the loss of staying where they are, you're leaning into that core human instinct to avoid loss. So highlighting the stakes closer to the beginning creates urgency. The goal is to paint that picture of the future by playing the type forward. What happens if they stay? What happens if they don't take any action, if they stay on their current path? So back to this example, I'll show you what Sarah stands to lose if she continues doing what she's doing. So in this example, this daily cycle was becoming a self-defeating pattern. Sarah found herself teetering on burnout, feeling like she was running in place with nothing to show for her consistent effort. So here, we're capturing the stakes, the long-term stakes, by playing that type forward. We're leaning into those common enemies, like the client would face here, like putting in consistent effort but feeling like they're running in circles. Not it's becoming the self-defeating pattern because she really doesn't know what to do to fix her, to do less, you see. And again, just by putting those stakes closer to the top, people have an understanding of what they gain to lose when they are reading their story. So that is just keeping that curiosity loop open. So we're going to get people to read to the end so you can get them to take action, you see. And we're making it really clear about how this is going to show up. Deep down, people understand that if they continue doing what they are doing, like how their life is going to work out, and then kind of seeing it in copy, whether they're reading this in a caption or you put it in a carousel, or it's something that you put on a reel or you use as a reel script. Hearing that on and having to comfort it draws people's attention and brings them to action. So from there, we really want to move into the insight. And this is another opportunity for you to separate yourself from the pack and why you do the things you do and why your approach is so insightful, so different. Why if somebody is struggling like this, they're not going to get some statue coup solution that other people are peddling, you see. You're getting something thoughtful and unique, and it's customizable to you, because we're not just trying to sell a product here, we're also selling people on the idea that you are the expert to give them the solution. So in this reveal stage, in the first 2 steps, you've proven that you know your ideal client, you understand them, which is paramount to getting them to read on. So we've done that. You demonstrated how how the problem shows up and how it shows up and how it could make a tangible difference. You painted a picture of what life could look like if the problem persists, and that makes it emotional. So you have their attention, and this third step is all about why you're the person to solve the problem and answers the questions in every buyer's mind, why you and not a person who's sort of like you but cheaper. We do that by demonstrating your expertise through sharing sharing an insight. A good insight provides an explanation into why their current approach isn't working, so you can show that your offer is different and more thoughtful than other solutions that they may have tried. An easy way to generate interest by leveraging this go-to story technique from lesson 1, which was contrast, right? So we're showing that your approach isn't different than the rest, but just by within insight and with something a little bit more thoughtful. You're just like, I get immediately separating yourself from the pack by letting know that what you have to say and your approach and your product is going to be different than anything else that they've tried before. So this tip just shows that you understand the root cause of their problem, and that builds trust. This isn't the time to give tip or a trick. The goal here is really to create a moment of awareness, to differentiate yourself. So you'll find props on how to develop insights in the worksheet for this lesson. But I want to continue with this example. So this is how that insight, that reveal would look in this story. After another exhausting day, Sarah confided in me about her struggle, frustrated that no amount of planning seemed to make a difference. That's because her commitment or even her organization wasn't the problem. The real issue was that not all tasks are created equal without knowing which priorities would actually move her toward her goal. Her list just got longer and her energy kept draining away. Prioritizing, not planning, was the missing piece, guys. So this is just, it knocks out objections by being like, I'm not going to give you another planner. I'm not going to give you an organization hat or tip. We're really going to get to the goal here. And that is because it's not that you don't understand the organization or how to plan your day, but rather that you don't know how to prioritize. So, okay, now we see that is what I'm doing wrong. I see what I'm doing wrong now. So now I'm like, okay, how do I fix it? I know what's wrong now. I see that you clearly know more than me about me because you were able to point this insight out into how I was doing something wrong, why my approach wasn't quite working, and now I'm really interested in what you have to say. So this is where you're going to get into the transformation. Now that we've given your ideal client that a hot moment of insight, we really want to show them what life looks like when they apply this newfound perspective using your approach. So this is the after a glimpse into what truly possible when the problem is solved. So here we're going to answer, what does your ideal client stand to gain when they purchase your offer? So back to the example. Once we started working together on prioritizing, Sarah's mornings began to look different. Each day she chose 3 key tasks, and suddenly her efforts felt aligned with her bigger goals. Instead of ending each day drained and defeated, she now closes her laptop feeling accomplished and even energized. For the first time in years, she was making real progress, and the threat of burnout started to fade. So here we really created that clear picture. Most times, many times, especially when you're starting, you could almost just say the opposite of what you said, what they gain to lose. You're just painting the opposite picture. I did in this example, but the more specific that you could get, the better. Really diving into how they're going to feel. What is their day going to look like? What does that mean for their future? So again, here I use the short-term effects. At the end of the day, she's feeling aligned, but I also include the long-term effects of burnout is starting to fade away. And she's making real progress for the first time in years. So in this transformation step, we've changed her trajectory. And now other people see that they can change their trajectory as well. So the first step is the offer. And this is going to feel really natural, right? Because now you've set them up. You've established that you know them. You understand their problem, and not only that, but you understand the root cause of their problem and how to change and how to implement change to make a tangible difference in the life of your client. So there's really no hard sell here. It's just this is an obvious solution to their problem. So you're going to remind them of how good the after feels and give them the details. That's a copywriter who's written sales content that's generated hundreds of thousands of sales for my clients and myself. My best copywriting tip here is to tie the deliverable back to the transformation and the benefit your client will gain. And I do this in the example. I'm going to walk you through how to do that. All right. So this example, if you're ready to feel like Sarah, moving through each day with clarity and intention, my proposed full prioritizing session will get you there too. Together, we'll weed through your bottom list to-do list and come up with a manageable plan to prioritize the needle moving tasks that will get you tangible results. In 90 minutes, we'll pinpoint a daily action plan for the next 30 days. By this time next month, you'll be kicking your feet up as you put a big green check mark next to the project you've been dreaming of. So, a couple of things here that make this good way to introduce your offer. What storytelling is, again, we want to move through each day with clarity and intention. We're reminding people of the benefit of the transformation, just we're baking that right into the copy. We're empathizing with them. We understand that they have the bottom list, to-do list, and they need a manageable plan and they want tangible results, and you're giving them a time frame. You're making this promise of we're going to do this and giving them, and you can expect a result in any time that you can give a time frame. It really helps with that logical justification to make a purchase. I know it's not always possible, but when you can, it's really helpful. So you could say, in 160 minutes Zoom call, this is what we're going to do by the end of the first module in my course. You can tell a story giving them some benchmarks, again, that just goes back to making it feel real for them. Okay, and finally, we're going to do a call to action. So it's persuasive, definitely not manipulative, right? Like these are storytelling CTA. So it's all about meeting the client where they are at. So persuasion comes from, and I think that this is a really interesting distinction because it's not always about persuasion. It's not like you have to convince people to buy from you. You've already done that. You've done that part already. They get it from this story. So you don't have to go hard here. Really, what you want to do is motivate. You need to motivate. You want it to be encouraging. So persuasion comes from tapping into your client's existing motivation, whereas manipulation is outside pressure, I say. So manipulation is like, I have 2 spots left, get it now, or a little bit more negative, whereas persuasion is just going to be tapping into those motivations, which we already know, and we've not only to be voicing in this story, you've listed them out in previous exercises. So just finishing with a confident, encouraging invitation that speaks directly to their motivation and desired outcome. It won't feel like pressure. It will just feel like they are going to get what they already want. So in this example, I wrote, if you're ready to take back control of your time and see real results from your effort, the proposal prioritized in a session is designed to channel your ambition into outcomes you can see. In 90 minutes, we'll create a clear, focused plan that aligns with your goals and gives you the momentum you've been missing. Click here to get started. So here, I reiterate. You see what I'm trying to say? I'm like, what are you getting? I always want I was on the reader to feel like this is what they're waiting for. So this is the moment that they are actually waiting for. So again, just tying in those benefits and trying it to the motivation that they already have for themselves just makes it feel like a natural next stop, and you don't have to resort to any gimmicky tactics or anything like that. It's really conversation. It's an invitation. So that's how it's going to feel non-sales, and that's how it's going to feel like the solution that they've been waiting for. And it really starts with you being empathetic in the beginning, really understanding their problems, showcasing how that affects them in the short run and in the long run, and then showing why through showing your insights, explaining your insight about why your approach is different, that showcase your expertise. And then we're just inviting them to take the next step for something that they already want. If they got that far down in your story where they're reading the CTA, that they already want it and they just need a little motivation to take the next step. One thing that you could also do that I didn't include in this example, but it's a great tactic, is that in between, spelling out the nature of your offer and the call to action. You could put a quote in, like a testimonial quote in. If you haven't already yet, there's a bonus lesson in this course about turning your testimonials into stories. So if you have to do is leave a testimonial for this course, just let me know about your experience, and then you'll get access to that, and we'll talk more about how to use testimonials in storytelling. But there is another great place to put your testimonial as well. Okay, so with the non-salesy framework, you are well on your way to telling stories that are going to make your audience feel like your offer is a missing piece of their problem, and encourage them to move forward with you, and really motivate them to move forward with you, I say. I work here because we like to avoid in our marketing. So as you practice and reframe this framework, this is going to become second nature. It's going to be a really authentic way to build trust and invite people into your offers. And in this lesson, you're going to find more prompts. You're going to find templates and examples to make this framework your own. And I will see you in the next module. If you have any questions during the course, just post them right here in the Q&A section. I personally read and reply to every message, and if you enjoy the course, please take a minute to leave a review. It really helps other students discover the course and supports our work at ForgeHubAcademy.